Good morning, everyone, and thank you for being here to today's webinar, which is called Pitching Prospects and Winning Clients. This is where we're going to really go into what it is to craft your pitch in order to cover all the things that your would-be clients need to say yes. Not just say yes, but say yes with surety and confidence. So when it comes to pitch, basically your pitch is a communication to a buyer. So it behooves us to really kind of get a little into their heads about, well, what do they like? Now, as I said in the sort of preamble to this webinar, introducing the topic, they can range all over the place from being an individual to a large corporation with tons of committees and sophistication and all that. So it's really hard to say a one-size-fits-all model for them. But we're going to try because it's useful actually to suss out and tease out the similarities. To do this, let's look at what I call the buyer sophistication spectrum. Consider that there's a spectrum when it comes to your people who are ultimately the buyers, the ones making the choice to make the investment in your coaching programs. There's a certain rising sophistication, and someone can find themselves along any one of these points. And along that rising sophistication, you get more into a formal process. This is the stuff of having rubrics and checkboxes and spreadsheets for point-by-point comparisons and levels of committees and layers of a sales process that is very involved. And on the other end, you've got more of a casual intuition, going on, less of a process and more of a feeling, more of a being able to sort of through, deep expertise or familiarity, be able to make that sort of executive command decision like, yes, this is the way we're going to go. Now, to be clear, I don't want to insinuate that, being on the right side of that spectrum, the more sophisticated is better, or that it's pejorative to be on the lower end. Quite the opposite, actually. I myself find myself way on the lower end, because from my taste, not always, but less formality, less sophistication in a buyer's process can be, not always, but can be a sign of, well, you've got the sophistication and maturity and intuition to make that decision without having to go to a lot of things. The other side can be, not always, but can be a hedge against people who are not really trustworthy to make that decision. So instead of an individual making the decision and taking the heat for it, rubrics and checkboxes and formal process and committees are responsible for it. There are slightly different concerns among the people that are, are among buyers on both ends of the spectrum that are a bit different. On the formal end of the spectrum, they care about the decision being ultimately justifiable in objective, clear terms. And one of their greatest fears is making a decision that they could get fired over. Conversely, on the other side of the spectrum, they decide based more on a hunch or a feeling that, whatever's being offered is the right track. And what they fear most is feeling like they made a foolish decision or being taken advantage of. Now, what's interesting about this is that every point on the spectrum has slightly different concerns based on those sort of two things that I said. But that difference, fortunately for our sake, is mostly window dressing. At the end of the day, basically everyone seeks to make the right choice and have all of their concerns sufficiently addressed so that they can make that choice with confidence. So by acknowledging sort of like the differences in the types of buyers that you guys might ever be pitching to, we can still tease out the essential elements that are going to be common to all of them, which is going to allow you to craft a pitch that's going to really be resonant and responsive for what really matters to them. It turns out that when it comes to your pitch, no matter where they are on that spectrum, no matter what size or degree or formality, there are things that everyone wants to know. And I'll hedge just a little bit to put it, everyone asterisk wants to know. Okay, maybe not, it's true that everyone literally wants to know all of these points that I'm going to be making. But it's true enough that if you follow this model, you will never go wrong in terms of giving people stuff that they don't care about, because at some level, they absolutely do. Everyone wants to know things that are kind of divided into two big camps. The first was, what is it that I'm going to get when they're evaluating your pitch? When it comes to what you're going to get, they want to know what sort of results. How will we know that we got those results? How are we going to know that, mission accomplished, or will this be some vague, ethereal feeling that could go on indefinitely? Will the results last? Is this going to be that 2-day sugar pill, or is this going to be making lasting change? And is this the real deal? Can we trust that what is being pitched here, that this organization, this coaching team can actually deliver? We'll get into all those about how to really create powerful answers to those 4 questions. The other half of what everyone wants to know is what I could put under the umbrella of what will it take? How much money is this going to take? How much time is it going to take, both on the calendar? Are we talking weeks or months to make this difference? Or are we talking, and also in terms of actual time on a week-to-week, day-to-day basis? What does it take to participate in this program? How many hours a week, how many hours a day, and so on? How much effort, what kind of work is going to be required? This also dovetails on that time, the amount of raw hours of putting forth effort. And then what must I bring? What qualifies me to actually be an appropriate fit for this coaching program? What do I have to have as a minimum requirements to actually participate and get what this coach has to give me? I put this addressing what everyone wants to know is very powerful, because if you hit all those marks, congratulations, you just made the job easy for them. You just took away a lot of things of imagination about whether or not this is going to be, the right fit. And you made it easy for them to actually objectively say, like, yes or no. Conversely, if you leave parts of this unaddressed, well, guess what? It's now up to their imagination. And it turns out that all bets are off. When you leave it up to their imagination, they could either have a sort of like naive, well, I hope this works out, about those questions that are unanswered. That would be what I would consider the sort of subconscious awareness. Remember what I said about everyone asterisk wants to know? They may not know that they want to know, but at some level they do want to know. If it's left to their imagination in the subconscious, that's that understanding that helps them waffle and not be clear that this is the real deal. If they know they want to know it, guess where their imagination goes then? Oh, they didn't say anything about, will this last? That means it doesn't. That's probably they'll assume it as a conscientious omission. So this is our map. This is basically what everyone wants to know, divided into two halves. And you could think that everything in that black box there is basically a map of what your pitch needs to cover. If it's all clear and elucidated, that's the stuff of you've done your job and you've made their job of making a decision informed easy. But not everyone's stuff looks like this. A lot of pitches are just kind of sketchy and have certain things addressed, some not. And so what I want to teach you guys in this lesson is to be responsible for making it clear as day and actually boldly and unapologetically laying out, here's the deal, so that people can have that confidence that everything they need to know to make that informed decision is present. So the pursuit of effective pitching is what we're really talking about here. And for me, what's a revelation is that there are really two fronts in which you can make a better pitch. There are two ways to exert that energy of doing it well. The first is what in my, shall we say, younger days of entrepreneurship was all about. And that is making the deal better. We're gonna give you better results. We're gonna be able to do them faster. They're gonna take less work. We're gonna really put it on a silver platter so it's great. And we're gonna do it for cheaper. We're gonna undercut everything. The best, fastest, cheapest version. Make it better. That's been done. It's almost certainly been done to death by you. You've almost certainly been like, okay, if I can make my business better, I got to make the deal better. But the revelation that I want you guys to consider is that you can really exert energy in a very different place where there's not so much of the low-hanging fruit already plucked, and that is making the deal clearer. Taking that guesswork out of it can leave someone with the exact same deal going from, I'm not sure, to, oh, cool, well, that just makes sense, let's do it. And I want everyone on this call, everyone watching this webinar to sort of give a sort of soul-searching look into, well, how clear is this picture for your clients? You want to really look at how this maps onto here. Does it look like this where everything's pristine and up front and present? Or you just kind of leave certain things out? Well, we don't know. Everyone's different. We can't really say. Maybe certain things you didn't even think about to mention as a thing that your would-be buyers want to know or need to know. Maybe it's kind of murky at all. A lot of ones are this, where maybe you get the money, certainly presenting of credentials to, yeah, I'm the real deal. But so many of them are just focused on the results alone, and maybe a little bit of the how we know, because it's self-evident. If it's a concrete goal, then we'll know. And not much else. So much focus goes on to just the results, and focusing there to the exclusive is tantamount to having most of your effort being on making the deal better, making it appear better. But the clarity of bringing forth all these other 7 elements will go a long way to making that a clear thing, even though the deal you already offer is exactly the same. So let's be responsible for addressing those things that everyone wants to know. And good news about this part, we're in checklist territory. We can objectively look at what your pitch is and how you're presenting it and see, do we have strong representation in each of these 8 elements? So let's go through them. We're just gonna jump around and see what sort of the elements are of making these 8 strong in your pitch and clear for your buyer so they can take that sort of fear and uncertainty of making the wrong choice off of the table. Now, the first one I'm going to cover is money, because this one is the easiest mark to hit. It's dead simple. And quite frankly, I find that a lot of coaches and coaching offerings miss the mark on this one because they have a desire to be cagey about it, to like, oh, we'll talk, get us in for the first call and then we'll see. For my sensibilities, and I suspect a lot of your buyers, that harkens to sort of the trauma of like enterprise, B2B software sales, where basically it's all about an elaborate dance of courting decision makers and stakeholders and taking them out to steak dinners and relationship building, and then we'll come up with a price that seems appropriate to what you're interested in. I don't like it. I won't do business that way. Maybe some of your clients will, and you can eke out a lot more by having that sort of variability, that sort of opaqueness to your process. But I say that this is really easy to mark to hit, and is refreshingly honest and straightforward if you just simply give that pricing up front. Now, if you've got a variable pricing model where it depends on certain inputs of like, well, how big of a team are we working with, or what sort of duration, or there's options, great, map out that process of how you determine it. Again, give that refreshing bit of transparency called, here's how we're going to compute what the price is. And you can, for yourself, eyeball it and see what you're going to be in for and what your investment is. Easy to hit the mark. You might need to deal with what you might have learned along the way about best practices of getting the most out of B2B sales to do it. Next up, let's talk about what sort of results and how those are advertised. Yes, those are done to death, but there's a certain subtle nuance of making those more real for people. Now, there's something about coaching that I find very interesting, both super powerful and endlessly frustrating. In coaching, the results range from abstract to concrete. Well, what do we mean by that? We know what concrete results are like. Say you're a sales coach, you can say, increase your sales by X% in Y weeks. It's beautiful, it's objective, it's a clear mark. And of course, you have to put disclaimers of like your mileage may vary and you need to participate and show up, but that's a nice concrete goal, and that's part of what coaching does. But what coaching often also traffics in is things that are abstract, things like get more confidence and pursue what matters to you. Now, I use that airy-fairy voice not as a sense of derision against abstract goals. Those are fantastic. I mean, basically that right there is the one that I got out of the first coaching program I ever endeavored in. And on the brochure, on the surface, I never really would have been prepared to appreciate and understand what that really meant, but I got so much out of it, and that's why I've devoted so much of my life to elevating this endeavor of coaching for the interest of human potential expansion. It gets me so excited. Those abstract goals, however, are very hard to appreciate when you're just to the uninitiated, quite frankly. And most people who are approaching coaching, we might be hitting that tipping point, but I think we're not there yet. I think it is statistically, most people who are approaching it are the uninitiated, are the ones who are like, is this the real deal? What is this? What does even a sentence like that mean? So if you traffic in abstract things, you might think that you're in trouble when it comes to accurately portraying what your results are, because indeed, concrete is much easier to understand and therefore trust. Trust that it's meaningful, trust that it's something I want, trust that it would actually be delivered on. There's that whole thing of like, well, when will we know we're done? So if you work in the abstract, my suggestion to you is to do something that's a little nuanced as an approach, but I'm going to break down how it works, and that is to map it into the concrete. Now, I talk a lot about, ratings metrics. How are you feeling on a 10-point scale? And people can say, well, that's a subjective thing. How does that have any meaning at all? But it turns out, for reasons I've outlined and been able to explain about in canon about metrics, that can be a really powerful thing that shows real trends over time, that becomes actionable coaching touch points. Similarly, for your results, you can take a feeling on a 5 or 10-point scale and make it something that, can be useful. Now, ratings can be tricky. XKCD, my favorite webcomic of all time, makes a really good point in their guide to understanding online star ratings. And I think we all kind of recognize this is true. They're kind of gamed. nobody knows what a 3-star means versus a 5-star review. And a lot of people, if they're just mildly dissatisfied, will do a 1-star review, revenge review, to just pull down the average as much as possible. So there's a lot of noise on that signal with ratings. But ratings can be done in a really way. It's not impossible to actually do some creative writing on your own. To do that work of mapping the abstract onto the concrete, mapping an idea, a feeling of confidence and pursuing what matters, onto recognizable things in life that your clients, your would-be clients, really want. These things here, items 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, are the stuff of language that is in tune with what your clients care about, what they fear, what's in their way, what are they striving for, what are their goals. If you take the time, whether it's for patching up your pitch at all, to do the writing of getting into their heads and using the language they want and meeting them with ideas that they can appreciate more readily, you'll be able to resonate with them much better in all media. And incidentally, this idea, this writing exercise of being able to write things like this that are meaningful to your would-be audience, that's covered a lot in our webinar on a better coaching website, where we go into a writing exercise getting into these very things. Highly recommended, just throwing that out there. So when it comes to results, clearly define and express these about what it is you have at stake for your people. And even if they are abstract, do it with clarity. Avoid the flowery language that everyone has seen, not because it's bad, not because it's not even a false promise. It's legit. We know this. Everyone on the line knows this. Many people who are uninitiated don't. And if you can map it onto parts of their life that they actually do know and do care about, then you've got something. With this here, you could actually make a claim called, well, the people we work with, we reliably bump them up 2 points on this scale. Do you want to work with me? Oh, now you've got a really powerful formulation that someone could say, like, wow, yeah, I see myself as a number 2. I would love to be a number 4. That would be amazing. Suddenly your flowery language of will build your confidence has turned into something that they genuinely want and can see and appreciate and understand. The next part of our little map that I want to cover is, well, how will we know? And everyone who's on the line here is using CoachAccountable, so you've got an advantage called, you can say, straight face, because we'll track routinely and objectively. This is the stuff of using metrics, set up meaningful ones, and then tee them up and actually have CoachAccountable make it so that they report on a routine basis, and that really does tell a picture and create a record over time. If you want to learn more about that, you can check out our Coaching a Metric webinar, which goes into all the details of how that can be done effectively. But that gives you your answer to the question, well, how will we know? You've mapped even abstract ideas onto concrete results-based things, and then you can say, here's how we're going to know when it's like mission complete. Next one, will results last? Well, again, because you use CoachAccountable, you can say with a straight face, look, we are not just the 2-day seminar sugar pill type of event where everyone gets super charged and everyone's like inspired and has the distinctions and the learnings and the coaching in their bones for about a week, and then things slowly regress back to normalcy because no real habits have been built and the buzz of that thing has done. No, instead what you've got is a sustained routine. You can create a coaching program that has measured results with a constant feedback loop, where you're basically looking into, well, how's it going? Is things falling out of practice? What do we need to get you back on track? And have the learnings of the initial coaching really take root and grow as part of your being that will be with you forever, rather than after you're out the door, bye, enjoy your regular life as it was before we even met. Now, for more on this, I recommend our webinar on the client lifecycle, which does go into teeing things up and then managing satisfaction and checking on a routine basis, handling derailments and so on. Next up, how much time? Well, for this, you really can just define a schedule of the engagement or program. Are you promising to work with someone for 6 weeks? Is it a program that spans over 6 months? Put that into terms that are easy to appreciate. Similarly, when it comes to time, map out the time that is necessary for participation. Again, this is the stuff of, what kind of calls, what kind of sessions, what kind of time, what kind of prep, what kind of post, what kind of homework, all these things. And in doing that, you can be responsible for slicing out those things that are the already on radar activities. If you're a workplace productivity coach of some sort, you can say, yes, we're going to make the 8 hours a day that you do actually working your job better. The coaching will be part of that, but that's bringing it to your life. You were going to do that anyway, whether or not you came to this program. You can cut out those things that were already going to be done. Like make it clear, like here's your time commitment for this. Here's what is required for you to show up powerfully and participate in this program and actually get the results. For more on this, I recommend our webinar on the session cycle, where you can map out like things that happen outside of the actual session. Things like the post-wrap, to doing the work of applying, and the preparing for the next session and so forth. Now, how much effort? I think this is one of the softest parts of this talk that I have, but I'll just give you sort of the broad strokes. Be clear and unapologetically so of what this is going to take. If you're at all trafficking in the world of this can't fail, just show up and I promise we'll just wave our magic wand do. No, we all know that coaching takes something of actually doing the work to apply it to your life. Be super straight about this. This the stuff of under-promising and over-delivering. Let them know there's going to take some work. But you can couch it. You can comfort it with, there's going to be a coach to support you. One of the things that's magical about coaching is it's not just taking a bunch of ideas and then good luck, apply them, be a better person. No, you've got a real person who's in your corner. You've got a real person who's looking out for and rooting for your success. You've got a real person to whom you've got a relationship, so you feel that positive peer pressure of accountability to deliver and follow through. And frankly, you've got an expert on your side who can help you to sort of make whatever you're doing a little more powerful if you fall off the track. This is going to take real work, but don't worry, I've got your back, is basically all that in a sentence. For more on this, I recommend our webinar on coaching action projects and plans, which really is the stuff of defining, how do you make an action plan that is going to be inspired, that applies to coaching to make a real difference, and guiding them because someone cares and there's a system of accountability and reminders to get them fulfilling on everything that they said was important to them.
John, I have a question.
Yes.
I love these visuals that you have, the drawings. Are we able to use those?
Yes. That's a great question. All of this will be totally open source. I should probably put slap on a Creative Commons license on this, because basically everything about this, feel free. You can find them all on the webinars page in app.
Okay. Thank you.
You bet. All right. Next thing, what must I bring? So this is where you define the minimum requirements for a workable fit. And there's something, quite frankly, sexy about being selective. You want to be unapologetically clear that this is not for everyone. You have to be at a certain level for you to qualify for this program. Because it's true, if you're no matter what level you're operating in with where you purport to take people, if they don't have a baseline sort of competence or certain characteristics that qualify them to actually be workable for what you offer, you have to say, no, certain people can't participate. That selectivity means that I'll just work with anyone. Be clear, this is what you need to bring in order for this to work. This is where you need to be at and as a starting point. And finally, is this the real deal? Well, when it comes to demonstrating this sort of credibility, I feel like there's a good, better, best hierarchy here. Good credentials. The problem with credentials is, well, you guys know all the grit, sweat, tears, hard work that you did, gaining the expertise that you have to have that certification or that general body of distinctions, whatever expertise you traffic in. You know what it took. Problem is, the people who are hiring you don't. If they did, they're already certified, they don't need you. So there's an empathy gap in terms of what that took. And so there's only so much stock that the uninitiated can put in credentials. So yes, they're important, but they're more important about what you gained getting them versus actually having them. So I say you can put forth those as the demonstration of you being the real deal, but that's not nearly as good as it's kind of the bottom rung of the totem pole. The next best is testimonials. This is the stuff of someone saying like, hey, here's what I got, all that. And that's getting better. That's getting more to the heart of what your would-be client who you're pitching to can appreciate. Oh, I could see myself in that. Problem with testimonials is they can be cherry-picked, they can be hacked, they can be, well, is it just sort of like selected among many things and it just happens to be, is it going to be real deal? They're almost too easy to make. And so I say that the best case is case studies that are tied to your definition results. Actual, here's a person I worked with, here's where they started, here's what we did, here's where they ended. And there's that crucial part is looping it back into, mapping it onto that clear definition of results so that people can again appreciate a before and after story in terms that are not abstract, but actually relatable to what they care about. A quality case study like that is going to be your best demonstration of, yes, this is the real deal. Just ask so-and-so, or if we don't have permission to have them have other people call them, but here's a story that we can stand behind. So this is it. This is our map of what everyone wants to know. And if you can be responsible for making all these things clear, you take so much of the guesswork out of, which again, guesswork does not work in your favor. Either they know it's missing or they don't know it's missing and they feel like, I'm not sure, for good reason. Now, when you're doing all this, you have what I will call the CoachAccountable edge. Quite frankly, because you're using a system like CoachAccountable, you are not just someone with a notebook and a phone and a notebook. You can say with a straight face that everything you have about your coaching style is backed up with a system. If there's a process, you've got a methodology. You might well have a canon of content, some tried and true stuff that's been iterated upon and refined and made perfect, and you know it's like the good stuff, and a tracking of results that is clear for both parties. This goes so much more beyond just being some phone calls, and that's not to knock people who are without a system like CoachAccountable, but you have a much easier time demonstrating those 8 pieces of what everyone wants to know when you have a system versus we have conversations and it goes where it goes. So now when you are not just that person, you really can stand by your results because they are self-evident. In other words, after working with someone for 3 weeks, 3 months, 3 years, you've got this record of insights, actions that they fulfilled on, metrics and things that were measured, like trends of where they started and where they ended up. Now, conversely, lack of results are also going to be self-evident. And that could be a big, like, is CoachAccountable potentially going to make me look bad because there's this degree of tangibility and transparency in what actually happened during those last 3 months that will put me on the hook? Well, that's why I would call it the CoachAccountable double edge. Now, there's something incredibly powerful to this where you can take the energy of that. Lack of results are going to be evident as a real bargaining chip for you to sort of, again, instill upon that sense that I am the real deal. You can demonstrate and point to, look, if results aren't there, we're both going to know it. And so I stand behind what I do because it's going to have that clarity. I'm on the hook. I'm going to be crystal clear if I'm falling short of the promises and the results that we did. Similarly, you do have an insurance policy because the CoachAccountable double edge means that you can also see if someone's actually participating. If they've got a sea of red and uncompletions and no comments about why, or things fall out, or records of them not actually participating in the thing, you can say, yes, of course you're not getting the results. You haven't done the work. There's a mutual accountability of making that deal called, we're both going to be all in, and therefore that's how this works. So if you have any concerns, though, about, well, is this level of transparency and tracking going to reveal perhaps that I'm not the real deal or I'm falling short of that thing? There is a powerful way to escape that and get out of any whether it's with CoachAccountable or not. You might have an imposter syndrome. Am I the real deal? And this is imposter syndrome is a huge thing across all industries. And I suspect that coaching is no different. I know that coaching is no different. So here's ways that you can sort of escape from that imposter syndrome, even if you're knee deep in it or you just got a nagging sense every now and then. Step 1, define your results in concrete terms. Make it clear. Like to me, it's the stuff of playing a good game of billiards. You know how they say you have to call your shot. 8-ball corner pocket. And if you're just poking at the balls and they just kind of go bouncing 4 times and it goes in, that doesn't count. It's slop. So call your shot. Define your results in concrete terms. And then work with a friendly to test. This can be something that you do when you're just getting started, or maybe something you do even if you've been doing this for the last 7 years. Work with a friendly to test. Assess a baseline before picture. Have your own style of that 5-point question of where do you fall on this spectrum? Assess it. Do your thing, tracking all the while. Again, in the normal course of using CoachAccountable to its fullest, all these records will naturally come out with no extra work of having to document. Just set things in motion and do your best as a coach. And then assess at the end, where you check for fidelity against those promised results. Did I land the 8-ball in the corner pocket, like I said? When you're assessing the fidelity of results, one of two things is going to happen. Did you hit the mark? Great, share it. There's a case study, that's legit. You can actually sort of, again, actually take screenshots out of CoachAccountable and have that be the basis of like, here's how this works, here's where we started, here's where we got. And if you don't, that's good to know. That's really good information. It might sting a little, but now you're not flying blind, and you can actually stand by your results because you can iterate, you can tune, you can refine how you work together to get closer. Lather, rinse, repeat. Everyone who's gotten into the business of coaching, everyone asterisk, I don't know, has a great body of distinctions and training that they did. They're going to be pretty close if they're not already there. So 1 or 2 iterations of this with that transparency, that elevated look into things and tracking is going to allow you to really hit your mark so that you can, again, have that worthy of sharing case study of here's how this works, here are the results, and here's what we got. Any questions? Makes it clear for the people who are considering your pitch. So, to summarize about crafting a pitch to win clients, we're going to take as granted that what you offer is powerful. We're all here as coaches. We know it's the real deal. Even if the uninitiated, it looks not as clear as the outside. It's powerful. So it's worth people taking it seriously. To help them do that, clearly map out the results you offer. Put your butt on the line, call your shot. And clearly map out the requirements of participation. Again, this is your 2 halves. What do they get? And what will it take? And then make the deal easy to understand and buy. So now, to see this in action, let's look at a sample pitch deck that more or less follows this model. I'm going to kind of be split-brained as I deliver this because I'm going to at once kind of be the person presenting it as if I was pitching, but also be John Larson of CoachAccountable, who's sort of like making meta commentary on it and all that. So we'll see how well I do to this, but hopefully it'll be clear. I don't want to just read you guys these slides, but instead comment on them about how this is an application that you can really take and run with about what we just talked about. So this is my fictional company, the Calm Professional presents Calm Team Relationships, a program that for reliably strengthening team relationships for these things that are kind of well known. And again, as you guys can see here, these are kind of abstract. And so everyone knows that, like, yeah, when someone's going to come in as a consultant and make our company work better, of course, these are some of the things. We've heard this before. So now I invoke an invention of the Calm company, the team dysfunction scale. And we give it an idea, but we're basically saying, like, this is an answer to the question, how's working with your manager? And again, we'll put it on that 5-point scale where we can map on appropriate, sort of easy to identify and resonate with sentiments that are indicative of the overall health. And maybe we have another one, for, that's boss to manager to employee. Maybe this is also manager, teammate to teammate, peers. Again, a sort of 5-point scale that gives a sense of the lay of the land. Now we're talking, again, a little less abstract and a little more concretely measurable. And we could say that, here are some findings that the Calm company has. Did I make this up? Yes. But could this absolutely be measured objectively and reveal itself to be like a real thing? Yeah. This is taking the abstract onto the concrete. And quite frankly, I made up those numbers 2.4, but 2.8, but my experience of working with big companies, I'm probably not off by more than 0.5 in either direction. So again, the Calm company is now pitching and making this idea, like, look, we know because we researched. Moving up 1 has a profound impact on these things. Maybe the Calm company person pitching is like, look, we know these are hard to measure, but productivity and retention, these are hard numbers. We can actually couch them in hard numbers. And again, this would be a researchable, determinable thing. Kind of profound. And then the Calm company can assert, we've done this. We can raise it by 1.6. Period, full stop. The person being pitched has a sense, okay, this is what they're here for. This is how they measure it. This is what they do. This is how it impacts our bottom line in terms of measurable things that we can appreciate, things that we care about. They might care about stress and morale, but it's hard to measure, so it might be an also ran, but even the most hard-nosed bean counter can be like, okay, it's very expensive to hire an employee, so keeping them around 16 months longer, that's serious ROI. So the company can basically say, like, and here's where, again, I would say, like, feel free to use any of these drawings for any of your purposes. Everyone wants to know, say, like, here's what you probably want to know. Thanks for considering us. Thanks for inviting us to pitch. Here's what you probably want to know. Well, let's get to it. We've already talked on results, but, like, let's be clear. Here's how much money. And then you just say unapologetically, $3,000 per team member. And what I like to do in pitching is peg it to something that they already have as an expenditure, or to sort of put it in the world, map it onto what they do. And here we can see that, you know, okay, if we can make our employees a lot happier for basically a slight increase of their already fully loaded employee costs, when we have to factor in taxes, benefits, vacation time, and so forth. Okay, I can see how that big round number that might seem like a scary investment, I'm not sure. Oh yeah, it's pretty trivial against what we're already paying someone to do great work for our company. A little bit of mapping on. Let's talk about how much time. The company representatives know that it's nice to map out what are they going to get, how's it go. So we just kind of say, here's what's happening. And we get a very clear sense of, like, okay, over a span of how long on the calendar to get these kind of results. And you can gotta get a sense for the texture of the program, what's going to go on, and so forth. And we get transition to effort. Talk a little bit about, again, that actual time investment. What was it going to take for your employees? How much are we going to take them away from their usual regular day job to do the various things that are needed? And you can break it down. Again, we have a sense for our cadence. We have a sense for our program that's all been laid out. Let's take the guesswork out of it. Here's what it's going to take. Here's what, you know, what time we're actually going to take away your people from their usual responsibilities to get this result. Okay, now we know, so we can kind of move on and take that as a concern of, like, oh, are they going to be just doing coaching stuff for 6 months and we'll have basically part-time employees forever? No, we can know better than that. How will we know? So we can say our in-depth instrument accurately measures workplace relationships on the function-dysfunction scale. Again, the function-dysfunction scale is a absolute fabrication. It's a creation of the professional. But guess what? It maps onto the very things that are absolutely understandable and relatable and real concerns in real working companies. So again, you can imagine that the company has not just a 5-point scale where you just can easily say, maybe it's 30 or 60 questions of a similar nature where an average really and a pattern really starts to stuff out. So it's an in-depth instrument. And the promise of the program, we're going to measure it on a routine basis, before, during, and after. And we're going to be able to see, oh, suddenly now your claim of we can reliably raise this by 1.6 suddenly has some teeth to it. It has some legs. We can see, like, wow, I guess we'll know. Well, I guess we'll know. Huh, even if we raise 1, I'd be delighted because those other stats. All of this is sort of tying on engineering and science onto abstract things of coaching. Very powerful. Let's make it relatable so that someone who you're pitching to can be like, yes, I want that. I see the value of that. Will results last? So now the company professional who's pitching makes note of the fact of a couple of attributes of this program. Look, this is a long tail. We build this so that we're not just in and out for a weekend and just like, high fives at the completion at the evening session and then we're out. Nope. We build the lessons to help them be ingrained. Well, you know, company offers, you know, that we train your team leads to keep those habits in place. You know, that there's nothing quite as alluring about a coaching program so much as, like, well, I guess, teach a man to fish, teach them to, or give them a fish, that sort of thing. And then here's a nod to something that's kind of fun. We can provision your own system to maintain these practices, available for a one-time license fee. The company has decided to get into the business of, well, we'll just let them do their own thing. If they're enjoying their system of accountability and tracking in CoachAccountable, we can actually set them up with their own system using a resource package, and that's a possible thing. And that could be another dimension to their business model that helps the work that they do really stick and become ingrained into an organization that they do the hard work of transforming initially. What must I bring? Here again, the company just sort of clearly enumerates, here are the things that you need to have in order to work with us. We don't work with teams that are too small. You got to have 6 or more. We need to make sure that it's a culture of mutual team and collaboration. You know, if everyone's just kind of line worker, it's not quite as big a deal, but maybe more collaborative works. This is where there's a lot of interpersonal dynamics, and we know as a program, this is what we have to offer, and this is what we need to work with in order to transform something and make a difference. You need buy-in and support of the managers. You know, that might be a typical requirement of any organizational transformation thing, we need to make sure that everyone's on board here. And as a fun nod to their own thing, like, look, if you guys have to be a little dysfunctional. If you guys are already rocking 4 or 5, we can do no work here. You're already good. And then finally, the comm company ends with answering the question that's on the tip of everyone's tongue: is this the real deal? And here's a little case study of sorts. There I work at I'm at Facesoft, and a smattering of quotes might do this thing, and they could probably get into more of the specifics of it, where they're just saying like, look, we worked in a number of other managers that we did after 6 months, here 3 years ago, this is what they're like. And again, we're looping back to and making those testimonials, these quotes, these things that were the stuff of a genuine case study, mapping it back onto the very results that we defined in clear terms early on. And then, because a pitch would be incomplete without a little call to action, just sort of to summarize, like, here's the deal. There you have it. And so that's a sort of little sample pitch. I will be making this its own little, you'll be able to download this own slide template and use it and manipulate it for your own, I don't presume that anyone's going to want to actually use it as their thing, but as a starting point to sort of like play with and change certain slides to be your own language and your own facts and your own claims about what you can do. It might be a fun place to get the creative juices flowing. So to summarize about creating a powerful pitch, just make it easy for decision makers by giving them everything that they need to know about your program. Any questions?
I don't necessarily have a question. My mind is kind of blown right now because in a lot of the coaching that I'm doing, I didn't think it was stuff that could be measured. And so I'm really realizing with the 5-point scale, like if you ask someone, how's your day going? And they say, good. Well, is that good? Like, I at least got out of bed. Or is that good? Like, I'm on fire. Like, really, it's really making me realize that I can define good. I can define, I feel better, like better. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's really
100%.
Opening my mind to how you really can measure basic life coaching, measure confidence. Like,
yeah,
it's very exciting.
Very cool. Yeah, I mean, human language is beautifully flexible and ambiguous, and that's wonderful and expressive and terrible and absolutely a mire to like convey the real value. And I think that a lot of coaching's value gets lost in the mire of that ambiguity of what does it mean. If you've ever been coached and you've had someone rock your confidence level, but you'll forever have forgotten what it's like to hear that kind of claim when you're uninitiated. And then when you're on the other end of the table, how are you going to communicate to someone who is uninitiated, who doesn't have that foregone conclusion? Yeah, confidence rates, it's beautiful. It works. So bridging that gap.
John, this is Cammie. Hi, thank you so much. Great program.
Thank you.
I have a question. So this is like in a presentation style. Would you also recommend if you're not pitching like to a group, would this be something that like on your web page when you're talking about my coaching, that these things are actually mapped out there in a non-interactive way that they're seeing it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 100%. The work you do in crafting a pitch, according to this model of covering the 8 things everyone wants to know, you can, perhaps should, absolutely back propagate it to your website and other media where people get acquainted with what you do. Because at the end of the day, all of this is basically conversations to share and communicate. Here's what I do. Do you want me? And that belongs everywhere. The webinar we have on a Better Coaching website goes into a lot of this. And I think I've added more dimensions to, again, sort of the checklist of things you want to make sure aren't missing when it comes to that pitch. Similarly, about live thing, you'll note that these slides that I showed in this sample one would stand on their own. Certainly, a member of the sales team of the comm professional would do a better job bringing them to life. But you could absolutely have, some top exec at the company who couldn't be at the pitch be forwarded this in their email and be like, well, that's pretty cool. It can stand on its own is what I'm saying. Great question. Mimi.
So, John, the question that I have is about bonuses. I noticed you didn't include bonuses in your slide. So how relevant are bonuses in the pitch?
What's a bonus in this context?
It could be a product you've made. It could be extra coaching time. It could be entry to another webinar or seminar you're doing.
Well, absolutely. I mean, that now gets into the nitty gritty of how do you want to run your business, right? You can absolutely make the deal sweeter by having certain things, or a common thing is to sort of split out tiers of participation. You might have a slide at the end of the pitch, you know, metaphorically or literally, that makes a nod to, and hey, look, if you're not ready for our flagship program, you might also like perhaps join the group mastermind, get a taste, or join our newsletter. That's your most basic thing. Or do our self-study course that allows you to sort of take on some of these ideas for yourself without the human touch, but you get a taste. And if you're ready to go up to the next tier, as it were, by all means. So I think when you ask about bonuses, those are sort of, again, the building blocks of structuring what I call, well, what's on the menu? What sort of things are here, and what sort of incentives might be to do this? I mean, Catherine, you could also say, like, you know, if you're ready, you know, we just prepped for this, you know, this pitch for you. So if you're ready to go in the 3 weeks to make that decision, we'll add in a bonus month of maintenance coaching, you know, to keep it in, or a year-end follow-up thing that can happen. Like, you can design extra things that are like elements of your product that fit in with what you're looking for.
Thank you.
Yeah, great question. Mimi, you raised your hand earlier.
Yes. Can you hear me?
Quite well. Hi.
Yeah. Because I can't see myself. What I wanted to ask, you've now shown us basically what everybody wants to know. Do we have to convey that information in the order that you've just shown it to us, or can it just be all over the place?
That one. Yeah, there's no order. I mean, here's my assertion. I really mean it when I say everyone asterisk wants to know all those things. That's the only thing that I consider concrete about this. And the rest of it, in terms of, is like your freedom to sort of weave, shall we say, a conversation or a presentation, depending on the motive, where it flows and people can track with what you're saying, what you're offering, have it be enticing and easy to follow. None, yeah, beyond the what I consider the cardinal 8, nothing of this is gospel. I mean, nothing, it's all made up. Nothing is gospel. But that's the one thing I would recommend. I would never say, like, well, Mimi, you kind of put the results a little late in the game. I put them more upfront. I actually probably wouldn't have that comment. As long as it flows for your sake and your audience seems to be able to track and is enticed by what you're saying, the value of what you do is coming through, is like the gold standard of correctness.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you, John.
Any other questions?
Yeah, John, I've got a quick question. Graham here.
Hey, Graham.
How newbie in the using CoachAccountable with coaching? What sort of split would you recommend, or would others recommend, between talking about your own credentials, qualifications, etc., and what you've mentioned, and the use of the CoachAccountable tool? I know you're going to tell me that it's a big part of the sales presentation, but realistically, should you weave it in? Should you use it as a lead function or a lead feature? What do you think?
So those are two things to pit against each other. It's kind of an odd pairing, because I wouldn't say that those are the two things I've done. Like I said on the Real Deal slide, you know, I think credentials are only okay. I think credentials are oversold, because I think there's an inherent desire to lean on that when you're just getting started. Well, because I don't have the other things. So credentials. Yeah. The most powerful pitches I've ever experienced, they have nothing to say about credentials. Why? Okay. Because what they're offering to me speaks for itself. I don't even question their credentials, because holy smokes, that's so compelling. And I can tell from the work that they've done in the report of, you know, whether a case study is, that's the real deal. Credentials become an afterthought. Yeah.
All right, let me ask you another question very directly. Sorry to take this time. Do people win coaching contracts because they're using a CoachAccountable that they wouldn't win otherwise?
Anyone want to weigh in on that?
I mean, John, you must hear testimonials of people saying, since I've been using CoachAccountable, you know, I've won this contract, or this is so much easier, or whatever. I mean,
I got an email 3 days ago saying, John, I'm so glad I found you in CoachAccountable. You're going to make me a rich woman. I'm like, cool. I don't know if that satisfies your question.
John, I can address this a little bit.
Yeah, lovely.
So the one thing that you said was talked about, Graham, is being able to measure success.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times I will lead with the metric component of CoachAccountable.
Yeah.
Creating metrics.
Yeah.
So in that, and I have looked at other coaching platforms, and some are a little better than CA in some ways, but none of them have the metrics component or the worksheet component that CA has. That just makes it so strong.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree with that as someone who's just joined it. In fact, while you were talking, John, my emails are pinging away from my first CoachAccountable client filling out his worksheet and his assignments. So I thought it was quite appropriate. So thank you, John. Really good stuff. Yeah, I love it.
Graham, I would like to add that I just feel like it just gives this level of professionalism.
Yeah.
And like you said, John, that I'm not just the person that's going to chat with you with a notebook. Like, it shows you have I think when people just see that you have a system, that automatically sets you apart from other people.
There's something very distinguishing about it.
That's really good. Yeah, that's a good point, Wendy. I like that. It is a system. It's a process, isn't it? Absolutely, yeah.
And it saves a lot of time for us. So
huge.
If I have a handout that I want to give someone on session 2, it's already, I can build the course and it's in there. Like, it's the amount of time it saves me is worth it, even if I didn't share it with my clients. Like,
yeah. No, I can see that. It is huge, yeah.
You do the work.
Don't tell John that, though, because he'll put the price up, right?
Actually, all right. Hey, guys, so Graham's new here, so we're just going to give him a pass. Graham, we haven't changed our pricing in, it'll be 8 years in August.
Okay. Well, that's commendable. Yeah.
I like the math of the current pricing. There's a certain elegance as the cost per client steps down 10.
Yeah,
8,
I agree. It's a fantastic model. You put a lot of thought into this. Yeah.
Don, I have a quick question. I work with a lot of healthcare workers, doctors, nurses. Their life is really overly filled by documentation. I mean, that's the source of part of I'm a resilience coach, so they're coming to me for reducing stress. And I recognize that the EMR, the electronic medical records, is huge for them. So part of I feel like I can't fully capitalize on all the power within CoachAccountable because I really kind of give them a free pass of not overly engaging in the platform because they're overly engaged to metrics in their work. But what I really appreciate about what you said today is being creative about how, when I'm listening to them, translating the feedback that I'm hearing in their storytelling onto their platform, so they'll be able to see it at some point, so that I can see a movement from I want to be specific about how am I feeling better, that rating, and trying to get it into a language that is reflecting what I'm hearing from them, so that they are able to see over time. So thank you for that, because some of that has kind of been lost because I let go of trying to force their engagement by being on the platform. But I feel like I have a new way of helping to document that change, that growth over time.
Right on. If I may throw out an idea, you know them better than I do, but one way that you might get them to participate in a non-overwhelming way is a really well-crafted pre-session worksheet. And here's why. For me, one of the luxuries of coaching and being coached is you can rattle off what's on your mind, and there's a real human being who cares about it, and you'll get to talk to them about it. So if you make a pre-session worksheet that has that sort of luxurious feel, like I want to hear what's on your mind because I want to take really good care of you when we talk in 24 hours. They can answer a few things, maybe pick on the radio button dial of 1 to 5 scale, and that'll pipe into their metrics automatically. They really don't have to log in. They'll get a message on their text or the email, hey, fill this out. One click, they're in and it's there. and they close it, it's done. That'll build that record, but also give them the experience of being heard so they can set up for a great conversation with you.
Actually, John, that's great intuition on your part, and I do that and it's more of, it ends up being a pre-session. I call it a chip because I move through a positive psychology approach. I ask them how they celebrate, how did it happen, identify their struggles, their challenges once they've gotten in that up spiral, and then a plan. What feels like the natural next step they need to take. So I do that, and to your point in your presentation, the people that do well are doing that chip. The people that don't do that self-reflection really are stagnant in their ability to grow, to move forward.
Yeah.
May I ask, forgive me, John, Cami, could you take us through the chip again? I didn't get the chance to write it down. It sounds really valuable.
Yeah, it's real simple. The CHIP is an acronym for celebrate. And then I want to continue to build, this is kind of Martin Seligman's work, really savoring it. So the H is happen. How did it happen? What was around you? Who were the people involved? What was the environment like? So really kind of deepening that savoring. And then once they're in the up spiral, then asking them to identify their challenges, because now I'm trusting that the up spiral of positivity is at work, and they're going to be a little less self-critical, that they're going to maybe examine that shortcoming from a little more compassionate lens. So then they're able to identify their sticking points and then plan. What do I feel like intuitively I need to do to move forward? And then I'm able to read that before I visit with them. John, to your point, I'm able to see that progress over time, and I'm able to create a plan for where I'll actually pull comments from the chip that they sent me, put it into my session notes, my prepared session notes, so that I have content that they can know that I'm listening to them because I'm referencing their own language.
And Cami, forgive me, whose work is that based on again? What was the author?
Two different people. Martin Seligman, who's the former president of the American Psychological Association, positivity, founder of positive psychology, and then Barbara Fredrickson's work on positivity, the broaden and build theory of positive emotion. So really trying to, and I don't know all of you other coaches, but I have to sometimes interrupt my clients because they come with that negativity bias. They go right to what was wrong in the week, how I fell short. And I really make an effort to interrupt that and always start in an up spiral, because I know I'm going to get the best work out of my clients when they're in that frame of mind.
Cami, thanks very much.
You're welcome. And thank you, John, for the insight on those softer things to help me track. And I never really thought of the chip being a way to mark that progress. I have to still come up with a way to go back and try and harvest it.
Right on.
But
yeah, I mean,
it's there. I just have to harvest it somehow.
Like putting it in your session notes? So
or putting it into record that I can report out to future clients.
All right on. Yeah, I mean, I've been beating this drum for a long time. I'm such a big fan of metrics, but also because of the little comments that allow people to tell the story behind the number. And again, there's a way to sort of sneakily, I don't know, but it smoothly, non-intrusively weave those into those regular worksheets. Just like, hey, how you feeling? Any comments about why? And then 1, 2 can be piped into a metric, and then that metric itself is a nice one, extracted, nice compiled story of how it went and what's the sentiments behind it.
Thank you.
You bet. Any other questions before we wrap up today? Going once.
I have a question, John. What improvements have you snuck in over the last couple of months that we might not have noticed?
I've been meaning to send an email about that. Real briefly, yeah. So you can now make your own little marketplace of your offerings that is meant for your established clients only. When you create an offerings collection, you can mark it as make this available to clients so that it appears in their user menu. And then you can just let them know, hey, for my existing clients, here are some offerings that you might want to sign up for that allows them to have, peruse your own little mini marketplace of other things that you have on offer. Enroll themselves into a course, book themselves for a paid call, on demand if that's your model. Join up a membership with a recurring subscription thing into a group or program. So that's one of them. Another one that I haven't released to everyone, actually, I've only released to a few folks, but I think I'll turn it on for everyone. You can now, well, this afternoon, you can link to other files in your worksheets and session notes and whiteboards and journal entries. So you can just pop a link to a file so that if you've got a worksheet that entails like, hey, welcome to the worksheet, first read this PDF. If that PDF has already been shared with them and exists in their files page, historically it's been somewhat clunky to say, hey, go over to your files page and find this one titled this, and then read it and then come back. You just have a little button that says download this or watch this or review this, and you can set up whatever button text you want. So interlinking of certain elements in the system already, just to make things a little bit smoother. That's all I'm saying for now.
Got a question for you, John.
Yes, sir. Hey,
I'm
Brad.
conference, unfortunately, but I'm just wondering what's next, new and exciting that's going to happen with this platform.
Oh, so much. We never tell anyone nothing. There's a blog post. I won't unpack it all now because it's too long. But if you look for, if you go to the blog and search on the little left thing, why V3 was kept a secret, if you just do V3 secret. I worked on CoachAccountable version 3 for a year and a half, and nobody knew a thing about it until, hey, it's done, check it out. One morning there was a news item in people's inbox. So for reasons explained there, I like to work on my own pace and not create what I call like sort of a scammy thing to do, which is to trade on ghostware. I never want to have people like CoachAccountable for what's coming down the pike. I never want to say like, sign up now because that feature that you absolutely need, we're going to be releasing that in 4 months. No, you either like CoachAccountable the way it is right now, or I completely understand if it's not good enough for you. So there's some stuff up our sleeves, things we're working on, and that's exciting. And I'm not saying nothing about it. And I love your curiosity for it.
I'm a big fan and trying to, develop my coaching practice. And as somebody else said, I've had my texts coming in for people making appointments. It's beautiful. It just saves me tons of time. And I was telling Morgan just the other day when I met with her that it would sure be nice in the future to be able to just see if we could have some sort of other courses available that we could do a subscription where they benefit and they're paid for it and we can purchase, and vice versa. We can create courses. I got courses for Etsy, and I'd love to share them with others and they could subscribe to mine, that kind of sharing concept. There's so much demand out there. So anyways, just that's what I had on my mind.
Say more about that. Is that like a feature request, or like, I'm not sure of the model of when you say sharing courses?
Well, when you go to courses and, you have your preloaded ones that you just put on there, to have options, other coaches load up and I can purchase from them. And there's a split cut, kind of everybody's making a little money on it, right?
Yeah, so the mechanism for that is already there. Resource packages, have you found them? Have you stumbled upon them yet?
Yes, I have, yeah.
Cool. So any coach can basically take some of the things that they've created, be it files they uploaded, worksheet templates designed, entire courses, whole flows of offerings with courses and groups and whatever, and they can make that into a resource package, which is a link that they can share, sell, license, that basically gives another coach one-click access to install whatever materials they have packaged in that resource package. So what you're saying, Brad, might be something like a marketplace of coaches to sort of peddle their resource packages. Right now, it's a very DIY model.
Exactly.
What's that? Is that it?
Exactly what I'm talking about, yeah.
Cool. Well, that's good food for thought. Right now, coaches would have to sort of like say that they're, can kind of DIY their own, put something on their own website and click here to pay via PayPal, and then they'll send you a link or something like that. It could be, all this is to say, it could be done in an ad hoc way, but it's nice to know a vote in favor of, that would be a really cool thing to be more officially supported, like its own CoachAccountable marketplace of resource packages.
Yeah, having it done the right way, of course, is a big sales item for me, a purchase item for me. Everything on one platform is why I came to you in the first place. And that's, anyways, that's all I have to say. But excited
right.
about it coming next too.
Oh, Brett, I appreciate you weighing in. I mean, one of the things that I like to say is this is benevolent dictatorship. I don't tell nothing about nobody to anything about what's on the horizon, but everyone is entitled to cast their vote. And indeed, that sort of putting in your input about what would be cool, what would be nice, what would be useful, informs us all the time. We are always listening.